Hi guys, my name is Ivo from mytestedasp.net. In my previous video I showed you how to use reflection when you are lazy and when you have quite a lot of repetitive code, and my example there was with the ASP.NET Core Service Registration. So in today's video I promised you to show how to do the same technique with the AutoMapper registration. So let me explain the problem here. First, when my app is getting bigger, I would have a lot more and more models which have to be mapped. So in order to register the mapping in AutoMapper, I would have to do the following. I would have to explicitly create a map for each different model, which is not that cool actually. It's essentially the same problem I showed you in my last video, in which we decided to register conventionally our services. If you missed that video, make sure you watch it. I will leave a link in the description. So what we want to do now is we want to make the same reflection style registration of all AutoMapper models, so that I don't have to bother mapping them one by one in one explicit place. In order to do that, I would like to introduce a new project which is called common class library .NET Core block.common. You may add the following interfaces in one of the existing projects, but I prefer these interfaces, which are for the mappings, to be in a separate project, because these interfaces will be quite used in various parts of our infrastructure. They may be used in the service layer, they may be used in the controllers layer, so it's better to be separated. Okay, I will create mapping folder and I will create the interfaces. The first interface is IMAP_from. I will use this interface when I would like my service model or my controller model to be mapped from a particular model. Then I will use IMAP_to. This interface will be used when I want to specify that my service model or view model can be mapped, reversed map, to the database model, for example. I don't want to pollute my database models. For example, I don't want to say that this maps to a service model, because that's essentially breaking the separation of concerns in our app. So I would like to use it on the service or on the view model itself. And the last one I want to use is IMAP explicitly. Map explicitly. Great. By the way, if you're not familiar with AutoMapper and what it can do, I suggest you take a look, because it can simplify a lot of your code. And I have a small tutorial on AutoMapper, how to wire it up with ASP.NET Core, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Great, so what I need to install is I need to install to the common project AutoMapper, because my IMAP explicitly interface needs it. Okay, IMAP explicitly. say public void register mappings profile, and this should be an interface too. I will explain in a minute what this interface is and what this method is for. Bear with me, I will show it in a minute or two. Okay, IMapFrom should be an interface too. Good, my whole idea here is to skip this infrastructure service mapping profile, skip that, and skip this controller mapping profile, so I'm going to delete that also. I will delete the service mapping profile too, but I will wait to make sure everything works correctly. And the way I want to register different kind of models is I want them to use the IMapFrom interface. So add reference to block common and say IMapFrom the article. So essentially I'm saying here IMapFrom the article, and when I provide that interface, my conventional reflection code should register the mapper for me. That's the idea here. And I can use IMap2 article if I need to have the reverse map from the service model to the article model. And I can use the other interface IMap explicitly to specify listings specific properties that need to be mapped by some sort of configuration. So essentially I'm going to use that registration here, and I would like to do the same thing for my article details service model. So I'm going to say IMapFrom article, going to say using block common mapping and using data models. This one should have the IMap explicitly interface also. So I'm going to say profile create map from article to article details service model for member article author map from username. Great. What's the win here? What I gain from this this way of doing and registering my maps is I don't have to remember every time that I need to register mappings here in one single place, because when I register mappings in a single place, this code, this class will become huge and it will be very difficult to find what I'm looking for in the future. So I tried to extract that logic, and each service model should define how it's mapped. So if I have a problem with some mapping logic, with some sort of with a specific model, I will know where to look it for. I will know that I need to look it here. And all the mappings will be done automatically for me, which is the second win. So essentially I'm doing a separation of concerns for my mapping, and in my opinion it looks better, it's quite more expressive, and it's easier to find what this model is mapped from, because otherwise you have to search in two different places and it will become quite tedious. But if you're doing it like this, you will know that when you open the service model, it's right there, you know how it's mapped. Okay, now what we need to do is to make that code work, because currently these interfaces are not working. So I'm going to create a new class, conventional mapping profile, which will find all the classes that implement the IMAP from interface and register them. That's the idea here. I will say you're a profile from AutoMapper, and let's say that we need to search for profiles only in this assembly. I believe we can do it like this. Okay, let's test my code. Let's see whether the profile is found. There's a problem somewhere. Okay, let's test whether the profile is found, and let's see how AutoMapper will fail to find the mappings. So essentially, if I hit articles, I'm here, and I will see an exception that there is a missing map from article to article listing service model. Great. Cool. Now let's implement it, but first I would like to thank my sponsors. As you may already know, I'm working as a CTO in a large software development team, and I'm a technical trainer teaching modern C# and JavaScript technologies. And in my free time, I create open source libraries, mainly for the ASP.NET framework. I have libraries for the old Web API 2 framework and for the new ASP.NET Core framework. Most of my libraries are fluent testing frameworks, allowing easy and fast and strongly typed assertions of controllers, services, routes, models, and essentially a lot of components from a typical ASP.NET Core web application. These projects started as a small side projects, but they grew quite big. They have been developed for more than 3 years now. They have quite a lot of packages, more than 20 I think. All the packages have more than 2 million downloads, I believe. So they take quite a lot of my free time, and luckily for me I have volunteers who contribute code all the time. Thank you guys, you're awesome. And I recently decided to start a Patreon and an open collective page in which people can back me. So if you like my videos, my YouTube channel, my tools, you may decide to donate some small amount of money, and I will be extremely thankful. Some people already did. Thank you guys. All of my backers are listed in the backers MD file here. A lot of people donated with a one-time donation. Thank you too. And if you're a company and you're looking for more exposure in the .NET world, you may become a sponsor. Currently my sponsors are SoftUni and Smart IT. Thank you guys, you truly rock. I say thank you to all my sponsors in all my videos, so if you're looking for some sort of fun exposure, these are the ways to do it. Thank you guys again. So let's return to the conventional mapping profile and let's implement it. First, I would need to find all the assemblies in my solution. I can do that with an app domain. If you're not familiar with app domains and what an app domain is, let me know in the comments below and I'll make sure to create a video about them. So I will get all assemblies from the current app domain and I will filter them because get assemblies will return all the NuGet packages I've listed, all the projects here, all the Microsoft ASP.NET Core packages, and I don't want that. I only want my assemblies to be included, so I will say give me the assembly which starts, all assemblies which start with blog. That should be more than enough, but let's test it. If we hit breakpoint here and start the app, I can see that all the assemblies listed should be only the blog ones. Great. Then what I would like to do is to select all public types from these assemblies with a select many so that the results from all assemblies should be added to the same list. And from these types I would like to find those which are classes and are not abstract, because I need to be sure that the class is a model class, because abstract classes, if I decide to make a base class for some model, I don't want to register it, because if it can be instantiated, AutoMapper will not be able to map it, so I don't want to have abstract classes. Then what I would like to do is to create an anonymous object containing first the model type itself, then the map from model, which will be no for now, the map to model, and the explicit map. No, is not recognized, so I will give zeros for now. Okay, then I will need to have the interface types. The map from type equals to type of IMap from. Using common mapping. Then I will need to have map to type, which is type of IMap2, and the explicit map type is IMap explicitly. Okay, let's first find the type from which this model is mapping from. So we need to find the interface first. So what I need to do is say get interfaces, find all interfaces, then find the one which is the same as map from type. As unfortunately, if we decide to do interface is assignable from map from type, that won't work, because my interface type here is IMap from article, and the type here is IMAP from nothing. And these are different types for the C# language, so they are not assignable, because you cannot assign IMAP from with no parameters to this class. So essentially this will return false. We will need to do something else. I will need to find a generic interface which generic type definition equals the map from type. That's what I'm trying to do here. And then I need to extract from that interface the model type here. Let's add the quas constraint. And now I have to get the generic arguments, and I have to get the first one. That's the idea here. So essentially I'm finding the interface which is generic, and its generic definition is equal to the IMAP from interface, and then I'm getting its argument, the temp model, and that's the model I want to map from. Let's see how this reflection code is working and whether it's throwing an exception with normal classes, because if it's throwing we need to make it more safer. Okay, model types should have, it has quite a lot of types. That's completely normal because we haven't filtered them. But for the article details service model, I should have that it maps from article and the type is article details service model. Great, working fine. And from the article form model, that should not be mapped, map from no. Article listing, it's working correctly too. Great, that's completely great. Now we need to do the same thing with the map to. Essentially it's the same code, but without map from, but map to. I don't like copy pasting codes, so these two expressions here just require to be extracted to a separate class, to a separate method. So I'm going to create a separate method which should not be static, and they will return a type. Get mapping model, for example, and they will receive a type. Essentially I need a type, and so I need to call this get mapping model from the type and map from interface type above, and here I need to say get mapping model from map to type. That should be working correctly. Now let us extract the explicit map. What we want to do with the explicit map, we want to get the service model. If the service model is implementing the IMAP explicitly interface, we need to create an article listing service model instance and call that method. That's the idea here. So how to do it? Get all interfaces of the type, of the model type. Then what we need to do? We need to find that interface which is explicit map type. Then we need to instantiate the type activator. Create instance from the type. We want to create an instance of the model so that we can call this method here. And I would like to cast that instance to IMAP explicitly. I believe that should be it first, or default. So essentially, to make the explicit map work, get the interface, if the model has the IMAP explicitly interface here, we need to create the instance of the model, and then we're going to call this method. Great. Cool. Now let's call for each. We may call to list and then for each model and do something with each model. We may call or create our own extension method to the enumerable interface if we would like that, but I'm going to use a normal for each statement. I will say that this is module registrations actually. So for each model registration, I would like to test whether everything is working correctly. Build errors. There's an exception here. Cannot create an instance of an interface. Yeah, that's correct. I need to use this type because that's the model type and this is the interface. So we fix that. Good. Article listing service model. We have an explicit map which is the created instance. Great, working fine. And now what we need to do is just check if model registration map from is not no. Create a map. This create map and provide the source type. The source type is model registration map from. We are mapping from here to the destination type, which is model registration type. That's the service type we want to register. Then, if it's not else if, because we may have multiple registrations, if map2 is not no, we need to say this create map model registration type, because this is the source type we want to map from the service model to the database model. Model registration map2. And last not least, if we have an explicit map and it's not no, go register mappings with this. Because the profile is iProfile expression, this is why I made the interface accept iProfile expression, so that I can create maps here. And essentially we should be done. Let's see how our code behaves. If I go to the articles endpoint, it's working and it's not throwing an exception because our code is mapping automatically everything for us. If I have a map from, I will see that I map from article, and the type is article detail service model, and both my models are registered correctly. So essentially we created a convention which allowed us to register mappings from our models automatically. How we did that? As a quick summary, first we deleted all profiles, then added AutoMapper and added only the web assembly. In the web assembly I created conventional mapping profile which finds all assemblies which start from block, finds all types, so essentially we're looking for models here. Models should not be abstract and should be classes. Then we find whether the class has the interface I map from and extract the generic argument from it, because that's essentially the model we want to map from. Then we do the same with the map2, and for the explicit map we find whether the class implements that interface. We create an instance of that class and cast it to the IMAP explicitly interface. And then we for each all our classes, and if map from and map2 are not null, we register the mappings. We do the same with the explicit map. This code is looking great and it's working great. You may filter the collection here if you would like, but it won't make a difference because currently we are for eaching all types in our assemblies that are classes, but that's necessary because we need to filter them. We need to check whether it has map from or map2. So if we do it in the link expression, they will be for eached again, so it doesn't matter. That's why I don't filter whether the type has the interface at all. You may wonder whether this is optimized. Well, it's using reflection and it's using link, so it's not the most optimized codes. But since it's run only once and only once during our application startup, and this code is not run multiple times during our request pipelines, so we're completely fine. We may use it because we have quite a lot an improvement on our development infrastructure and on our development experience when we're dealing with models. For a small performance penalty we may have at the beginning of our application startup. So in my opinion it's completely worth it. That was it, guys. Thank you for being with me. Make sure if you liked the video to hit the thumbs up button or leave a comment below if you're a fan of reflection. Additionally, you may check my previous video if you haven't already, where I used a similar technique to register the web application services. And again, if you like my projects, give them a star, contribute, start using them in your web applications, log me an issue, whatever you like. I will be more than happy. And if you are really satisfied with my video lessons or with my tools, consider becoming a sponsor or backer on Patreon and Open Collective. That was it for now, guys. Thank you, and